Explain, if you could, about your early experience with the NWA and working alongside Tommy Rich and Abdullah the Butcher.
My experiences back in the day was really, pretty good. I had a chance to come up in professional wrestling and see exactly how it was done and how it's supposed to be. A lot of, nowadays, we kind of got away from the old school way, and I don't blame them for that. This is the 20th century now. You got to move on and catch up with the times. But I enjoyed working with Tommy Rich. He was one of the guys that I happened to meet when I first broke into the wrestling business, and kind of got to know him. Abdullah Butcher was a guy that when he came to Atlanta, he didn't know his way around, so I had a chance to hook up with him by showing him around, and he started taking me down to TBS, the Channel 17, where they would tape the wrestling at, and so that's how I was able to get in and get behind the scenes and start working my way up to the top. Started as just running errands for the wrestlers. I was back there with the Four Horsemen, Flair on, and all that crew. Tully Blanchard, Kevin Sullivan, Hot Stuff, Eddie Gilbert, God rest his soul, Terry Taylor, a lot of Dusty Rose, a lot of great stars. I had the opportunity to grow up with and to learn a lot from. So my experiences in back in the day in NWA was great, man. I learned a lot, and it certainly paid off for me as I continued on my journey.
Awesome stuff. Now, how did the promotion to referee from ring crew come about through the NWA during your time there?
Well, when I got the job putting up the ring, it wasn't really no ring crew, just like it is now, just with me. And basically, when you put the ring up, you would basically kind of hope some people were there that would help you put it up, so you could get them into the matches free. Be a lot of guys that helped put the ring up, but once the show was over, everybody was gone. So few guys kind of hung around, but you had a problem kind of, taking it down. But anyway, Dusty Rhodes, God rest his soul, gave me my first job as referee. I started refereeing, and then I got a chance to ride with Kevin Sullivan, Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert, and I told him about my background, that I was a disc jockey on a radio station when I was a kid, and so we used to ride to the different towns, and I would turn the radio down and start DJing for them. They went through that with Jim Ross, who was in charge at that time, and finally, that happened, and so I started, I went from refereeing and I started managing, and I turned heel referee, and that's how I went into managing.
Okay. And now, Danny Davis was a heel referee during his time in the WWE, or then WWF. During your early time in the NWA, it was noted that you were a heel referee, as well as you had just mentioned. Could you give us a little bit more in depth of how the idea for that character came about?
The heel referee character?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, what happened is they were planning on, putting me into being a heel manager. And so they wanted to turn me heel referee first in order to move to that other transition. So we talked about it. I turned on the Road Warriors I can't think of the pay-per-view, but it was in New Orleans at the Superdome. And they took the belts off and then put the belts on Mike Rotunda, and I think with the Steiners, I believe Mike Rotunda and the Steiners, I believe, something like that. But I believe it was the Varsity Club. And that was my big turn right there. And then after that, I went back on TV, and Jim Hurd, who was in charge then, he fired me. Well, I did some other stuff on TV. I think I fast counted Ron Summers. He was going one-on-one with the Junkyard Dog, and I fast counted him, and then I did some other fast counts on TV. And so Jim Hurd finally fired me as referee, and then I came back as manager. That's how I started managing. I came back, and they put me in a manager role.
Oh, okay. That's awesome stuff. Could you discuss the Kevin Sullivan and Eddie Gilbert sport and how it was suggested to Jim Ross to have you take on a different role?
Well, it's kind of like I said from the beginning. When I started DJing for them in the car, okay, then they found out I could talk. I didn't have any idea that, wrestling needed people that could talk, for as managers. I hadn't learned that much.
Right.
So when they found out I could talk, then they went to Jim Ross, and there were some other people on the booking committee too. And they just asked Jim Ross about, hey, we found, I guess, I don't know. I don't know what was said. I wasn't in there, but I would imagine they just said, Jim Ross, tell you don't can talk, you make a great manager, and I'm probably sure that at the time they was going to make me a heel, and I had pretty good heat from being that heel referee. So I was getting a response on that. So, it always takes a good heel to make a good babyface and to, help draw money. So I was in that role. I didn't know I was drawing money because I wasn't that knowledgeable about the business yet. But that's kind of how that went. They went to JR and told them about it. And then, like I said, they fired me to heel referee. Then I came back and started scouting in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I never forget that. And I think I started scouting in Nashville, Tennessee. And it was the Iron Sheik against Sting at the time. And I came out with my notepad and just looking at different wrestlers. I did it on TBS, for a while. And then finally, I think the first guy that I had was Norman the Lunatic. They gave me him. And so then I started managing from there.